7 o'clock. No, I interrupted you.
Really?
It's such a nice meeting. Right. All right, if we could stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just me, or every time we do that, do you guys all think of the Zoom meetings?
Oh my gosh. We're so good in person.
I'm tempted to just be off. Just give us a little reminder.
Just a little bit. All right, we are going to start with agenda approval. I do not know of any changes to the agenda. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Wheaton. Marilyn, was that you? Second by Forsberg. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to some future events, please check the district calendar and resource guide or the district website for a complete list of monthly events. Just realized I turned my microphone away. Friday, June 11, 2021, the high school graduation at Mariucci Arena at 7 o'clock. Tuesday, June 22, school board work session at 6 p.m. And moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Easter, second by Strobel. To approve the following items of the consent agenda: minutes of the May 11 and May 25 school board regular meeting and work session. Bills paid for August 2021 in amounts totaling $3,319,895 and personnel items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on to presentations, special guests, and recognitions. Panther Foundation, presentation of donation. Colleen Peterson, welcome.
Good evening. Well, it is a big check. Yes, thank you. On behalf of the Panther Foundation, I think most of you know I am the executive director for the foundation, and I'm representing them tonight with a really big check to present the donations and the contributions that the Panther Foundation is making this year during the 2020-21 school year to the Spring Lake Park schools. And that check is in the amount of $108,785. So in a COVID pandemic world, to be able to give this much back to the Spring Lake Park schools is really incredible. 95,000, actually a little bit more than that, is from the Panther's for a Purpose event, which all of the proceeds went to the Panther Pantry. So pretty significant. But we had several other grants, of course, the backpacks and our kindergarten books. Each of our incoming kindergartners this year received a kindergarten book, as well as some early childhood books. So there were a number of smaller grants that happened as well, but the Panthers for a Purpose event was truly significant. So Ms. Hennon, if I could present you with the ceremonial check.
3 to 6 feet from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you guys do. Thank you, Colleen. All right, moving on to discussion reports and information items. Number 1, engaged, enthusiastic learners align the work of adults to continuously improve personalized instruction and responsiveness to meet our students' unique and varied needs. Athletics and activities update, 2020-2021 summary. Mr. Will Blackman, welcome. Is this reverberating for everybody else? Or
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
As Will gets started here, as he's pulling that up, I just want to take a moment to recognize Will in the past 18 months, because he's going to sing the praises of our student athletes and the coaches and others who have made the past year a success. But he's done an amazing job navigating the numerous challenges that the past, not just this school year, but last spring have presented. And he's just done a great job of always, every time I talk to Will, what's most important to him is the kids. And how do we make sure that the kids have an amazing experience, the best experience we can give them? And I just wanted to, before he even starts, as he's talking, he's going to be talking about everybody else's, the great things that have been happening. None of it would be possible without his leadership. So
Thank you.
there you go, Will. Now we'll get to your.
Well, the last time I was here, we were entering a normal winter season would have been, and then what did we see? We had a heck of a basketball team that we had to shut down the day of their section final. Then we canceled spring sports, and then we figured out a way to have some summer programming that wasn't normal, and then they said football and volleyball are going to be in the spring, and then we started fall sports, and then they brought them back, and then we had a pause, and then we had to put masks on to play, and now it's kind of a good thing. It's kind of feels normal again. And we got state tournaments back, and our softball team unfortunately just lost today to end their season, but they got to play in a section tournament, and that wasn't the case for some of our teams and things like that. But it's just been a heck of a year, and I'll talk about just all the people that made it happen, people in this room and things, but just from you go around and the community, it's a community thing, and it's really, really important. So I just happen to be the one here to talk about the great people we have, and that's what it is, great people. So our athletics have been here before. When we talked about our 14 girls sports and our 13 boys sports, we have 38 interest-based clubs. The hardest part this year was how do you navigate when you're distance learning to hybrid to this, and we found ways. Not all of our clubs met, but we kept them open, and we're trying to figure out what an adult stepped up and said, I'll meet with them, and we'll create some, even we try to create some new ones even, but that was the hardest part, and engaging students, and that's what we're about. Our department is about engaging students. And we try to have 80% participation rate, and that's been pretty constant the last 3 to 4 years. That slipped this year, but not as much as other districts, and that's a credit to our adults and our programming saying we're going to try, and I'll talk about that. Just I think kind of our philosophy here is let's make it happen. And I'm happy to work in a school district that says yes to things. Other districts find ways to say no because they don't want to do it. And we say, well, if it's good for kids, we better do it. So that's awesome. Our participation rate was probably about 60%. So that's down a little bit. However, certain sports, we had kids come out. Football had 10 more players than they thought they were going to have. So there was some sports that was the connection. And kids said, I got to get to school. I want to be around people, and I want to be around caring adults. And credit to those organizations. I know some of them slipped, and we did virtual things, and fans didn't get to see events, but somehow we made it happen. So we tried our best, and that's all you can do. And people understand that, and there was a lot of gratitude this year, just playing. It wasn't so much a focus on winning and losing. This year it was about playing. And that's really what we're about anyway. So on that, here's what we offer in the fall, winter, and spring. Some of that was jumbled around, and then the high school league threw it back on us and said, make it happen, and we did. So an example was our first football game. I got a phone call at 4:30 on Thursday, the day before the game, and the other team said, we're not going to be there tomorrow. Well, you watch these kids practice for 2 weeks, we better find a game. So our friends from Becker said, we'll be there tomorrow night. So credit to our coaches for figuring out game plans in one day and how do you get film on these guys, but they did it. It was a heck of a ball game between two good teams. In fact, it was our only loss this year, but it was just fun to play. How could you not play with these kids who work so hard to do that? Especially our seniors, when we got to get it, and Coach Stewart, credit to him, he said, we're doing our senior night, we're doing our parent night the very first game, because we don't know how long this is going to last, and for us, it lasted the whole season. But we just had a great year. Our highlight, kind of finishing up right now, is our track team. Our girls track team won the True Team section for the first time ever, and we won the Northwest Suburban Conference going away. So we are finishing the year with some champions, and that's just awesome. So we made it happen, and it's really our adults that really said, we got to find ways for kids, and then it was our families, and then our kids saying, we're going to do this right. We're going to wear our masks because we have to. So our clubs, I just went to volleyball last night. So our boys volleyball club is growing, and that's a great thing for kids. Another opportunity for kids that didn't have anything in the spring. So we want to offer that, and they're doing a great job in there. Our weightlifting, we have had more kids in weight training than ever, because it's something to get them back to school. And they would actually come, when we were distance learning, and we had it open, they would come back to school to do that. So credit to those kids, and I'm going to highlight a couple of our clubs. I like to do that every time I'm here. But just a great year. It's just exhausting, but a great year. So things we learned, and I don't know, maybe this isn't the right title because we already knew all this stuff, but things that COVID brought back and the focus, and we're really important. That's the connection to the school. For some kids, that was the only time they came to school, was to go to athletics or their activities, and we wanted to stay open. And Jeff said we're staying open because this is important to kids, and those relationships. I sit down I do senior surveys when they leave our programs, and what do they talk about? Relationships. Unfortunately, some of the things teams normally do, you can't do a carbo load. You can't do that. So as a credit to our coaches to figure out how do you do things virtually, or how do you not say no to everything, and with finding a way. Can we do an outdoor carbo load? Can we do things like that? So we had some very, very unique things. Virtual things, swimming. I never thought I'd go to a virtual swim meet. It's kind of different when you're the only team there, and you go, okay, I don't know if we won, because you gotta wait for the scores and things like that. We had concerts outside. We found ways to do things. And how does that happen? People. Here's my viral tweet about our custodians bringing our ducks out. But I just put that on there because they, I had an AD say to me, how did you get your custodians to do that? I said, I asked. Credit to them. Our custodians, our print shop printed our football tickets. Our nurses okayed people to come back, and we had to work with them. Noreen and Rita in our office. Our families, our booster club stepped up. I've never thought we'd have to have a ticket list. And we had ticket lists, and I was dealing with lists and masks and all that kind of stuff. And then we had concessions that we couldn't, and that, it was unbelievable, the people that step up, and all the bad things that COVID brought us. All these great people came up, and it takes everybody to do these things, from announcers and things like that, and we leaned on people, because some people didn't want to come back, and I understood that, but we had other people say, I'll do it, because we have to do these things. So credit to them. And then finally, we just find a way to do things here. If I had $1 for every time somebody says, what's Spring Lake Park doing about this? We get a lot of questions. How are you doing this? And I just say, well, because we have to. But, they say, what are you doing about that? You're progressive. They always say that. What are you doing? They say, no, we just find ways to engage kids. We had credit to Colleen and our summer programming. Our weight room was open the very first day. I only know 2 other schools that had that. And we had to do that, because those kids wanted to do that, and we found a way to do it, and we did safely, and it was great. So I will say this, I counted up today, we have about 650 to 700 contests throughout the year, whether it's 9th grade or varsity. We only missed 7. So the whole year. We didn't actually have to miss a game until the first week of March. I don't know any other high school that did that, and that's a credit to our families and people when they didn't feel well also saying, hey, I can't come today because I don't want to, and that's hard. That was hard, especially when you get into March when people were kind of done with things. So, but part of it is because we find a way, and it was just a wonderful year. I wanted to highlight our fine arts first. Usually I talk about athletics, but I wanted to, because I just think the world of these people, and I was just talking to our band, and they said, do you know that we didn't miss a concert this year? I said, no, I didn't know that. She said, we're the only school that didn't. We actually had an 85% retention rate in our band and music programs. Most other schools were about 60. So that credit to that program for getting people in there and then finding ways to do it. There's a picture up there that you see the outdoor concert. What a cool thing. Our school, we have such a beautiful school to highlight it there. I said, you should do this every fall for that. But then the top one, that was a virtual one. And then yesterday we had people there. So we've done it all this year to make sure it happened, to highlight our kids. The Northwest Suburban Conference, we're hosting that musical. We just paused it. That was a little much this year, but we're bringing it back, and we're gonna host that again next year. That's one of the great nights of the year. We're gonna be at Bethel University. We partner with Tino Grace and Bethel University, and it's just it's a sight to see when you have 14 schools come together and do great things. Usually you're trying to beat them on the athletic field, and that night it's all about creating great music together. Our plays are award-winning, as they always are. So, and we just find ways to do things, and we just got great kids. That's what you can say, I guess. I just want to highlight a couple programs. Speech has grown. It went from 10 kids 2 years ago. They have over 30 kids. You know, I have people reach out, your speech seems really good. I go, oh, good. No, like really good. Well, we have all state. You know, Paige and Philson were all state in speech this year. Supi Patel, she's in our FCCLA, run by Lori Henry. You've heard Lori's name. She's the, Teacher of the Year, National Teacher of the Year for, and she just does a great job with that. And what she does is foster leadership, because and Supi's not our first president. Our school consistently has kids that want to be leaders, and that's credit to Lori Henry. And then our OEC program. How do you learn how to do EMT stuff if you're not there? Well, that program's about as good as you can during COVID, figuring out how to do it safely, and Bill and Jenny and all those people just do a great job. And on top of that, they fundraise. And their fundraising, a lot of our programs fundraise to enhance their program. Their fundraising, and I give OEC credit, their fundraising is to help people and adopt a family and things like that. They've raised over $90,000 doing that, just basically asking people for small donations. So it's not just about what's good for us, but what's good for other people. And that's you want your kids in those programs, because that's a life lesson that they learn. Our arts, look at this. I just found some pictures. I just pulled these out, and this is 4 of 25 that were submitted to the Minnesota State High School League art competition. And that's important for kids. Sports are important. Clubs are important. Art's important. Our trap and skeet, they always say we want to be the club for the people that don't have something. I mean, that's the kind of people we have, and this is the kind of students we have that make this beautiful art. So credit to those adults that foster this, and then credit to the kids that do all this. So that's our fine arts. Fall was different. There was no such thing as a state competition. So we had 2 runners that would have been the state meet. Unfortunately, they couldn't. But I wanted to recognize them. Our football team has a tradition of success once again this year. They were rated 6th at the end of the year. We would have played in the section final for that. They just did a great job, and it was tough to score on their defense. So I think they gave up 5 touchdowns and they had 6 shutouts. So it's pretty good when you do that. Credit to those guys. And then tennis. The interesting part about tennis is one positive is there wasn't going to be a state tournament, but they said we just don't want to end. We can do a consolation bracket. So our girls tennis team actually won the consolation section title. And our coach called and said, we won our last match. Very rarely does that happen, that you win your last match. You got to win a state championship. Our girls felt great about that. And what a way to end the season, and kind of, here's what we could do, and we got as far as we could. So another unique thing with COVID. And that was kind of fall, and it kind of did shut down at the end. I mean, our last football game, they said, you got to play on Friday night because we're shutting down tomorrow. And we did, and that kind of ended it for a while. And that was tough because winter dance had started, and they're getting excited for their season, and bam, pause. Some of our fall athletes, we have 3 all-state athletes in 23 Northwest Suburban Conference. I think this year we've had more Northwest Suburban Conference honorees than we've ever had. That means our teams are successful, and these 3 obviously set the bar. So Joey's gonna go to Rochester Community College, and Caleb and Mary are also playing Division II athletics. Or Mary's playing Division I, excuse me. So Mary Fetter. And she's a good hockey player on top of that. So it's not just one sport athletes that we're doing, and we need that. We need that to be competitive, and that's great about our school, is that we need our best athletes to play multiple sports. Our winter, like I mentioned before, our winter started for our dance team, which has been ultra successful since I can remember, and then it shut down, and then we started again, and we did virtual dance, and virtual hockey practice, and this, and I don't know, and virtual workouts. It was amazing to watch what coaches did, to do that. Is it the same? No, but you do the best you can on that. And our dance team did very well. Tournaments came back. They made their 18th straight state tournament appearance, and they won both the high kick and jazz. So that was their goal. They had finished runner-up, and the next year they set the goal to be a double blue, as they like to say, and they were double blue. So those coaches do a great job, and these girls work really hard and to dance in a mask, by the way. So they had to dance in masks. And our girls basketball team in the last 5 years has gone from lower in the Northwest Suburban to now we're in every game, and we're playing for section titles. And we came up a little short, but there you see them in their masks, and we played a tough Centennial team, and we had them on the run at the end, just came up a little short. Then our boys swim team has been second, and Coach Kugler's done a really good job. They've been second, I think, the last 4 years. Unfortunately, we were with Wayzata. Wayzata is pretty tough, but we swim hard and things like that. Dance has multiple girls that were honored, and gymnastics, our first person on the wall, we did the all-state pictures on the wall. Our first gymnast, Grace Brandt, was all-state on the vault. So that was unique. We're with St. Anthony, and they do a great job over there, and I get to go watch their adults work with our adults, and that's a great thing. And we're on with the same values as they do and things like that. So it's just been a really good partnership with them. They provide us the gym and things like that. We actually have 10 gymnasts, so in that co-op we provide the most athletes in there. 21 Northwest Suburban Conference honorees. Once again, successful programs, you get awards on that. And then spring. It started late, started with masks, and then we took the masks off, and we kind of had about as normal of a year as you could. I would probably say the only one that wasn't, because of just so many people, was track, because they had to do a lot more hand timing, but boys golf, you go watch a golf meet. Tennis, you watch a tennis meet. So we kind of got a feeling of, and that was good, and it was, weather was a little bit. Last year we would have canceled one event. Unfortunately, we didn't have a season this year. We had some weather issues and things like that, but we were able to figure that out. Now it's 90 degrees out, and I was at a softball game today going, oh my gosh, I'm glad I'm not playing. So that our girls track team, outstanding. I mean, we have some elite athletes on that. So multiple Division I athletes. They haven't been awarded their All-State yet, so we will have multiple All-State athletes in track and field. Our boys golf team is elite. We are an elite team. Unfortunately, we play in a section with the number 1 team, but our golf team is just growing. Coach Stern's done a great job. We've been second twice now, but we're moving our way up, and we return a lot of our players. And that's exciting because I have a son on the team too, and he gets to be around a great adult. Our adapted sports is run by Doug Potoff. He does a wonderful job with that. We had 3 all-state bowlers this year. It was a virtual meet. So they went to bowl at Bladebrook, and then the results were posted a week later. It was kind of a week long. I'm like, how did we do? It was a week-long virtual tournament, but we had 3 of our athletes do that. So, and then Mason Roloff is just to highlight him. He was the Northwest Suburban Conference Golf of the Year by 10 shots. So he's got a bright future, and he'll most likely be all-state. And actually, I was at the meet, and the golfers were following him. So credit to Mason, and he played really, really well. So he's got a good shot. And then 29 all-conference. We had 17 girls track athletes get all-conference. So I got the medals today, and the bag was just full. Like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. This is going to be a fun banquet to be at. Everybody's going to get an award, right? But for elite, performances. on that. Maddie and Genny, you probably have kind of a hard part. The Athena banquet is such a great thing, and it honors, and they call all the girls up there and they talk about their accomplishments. We haven't had that for 2 years, but they found ways to make it special, and I tried to too. And our communication staff does these great graphics for that, and that's Maddie and Genny. We actually, those are pictures not from this year because they all had masks on in our pictures, so we had to find some. But she's a great kid. She's an outstanding artist, and she wants to go to college to be an engineer. So, and what she may play athletics. I go, engineering and arts, that's kind of different sides of the brain. She's just a great kid, and so credit to her. She's such a well-rounded person. And then the Minnesota High School League does recognize well-rounded kids, and that's the AAA awards. You have to be have honorable students, be involved in the arts and athletics, and Megan and Sean, they epitomize that. So, and I say when I give them their awards at the senior night, I say they take advantage of the high school experience. And I tell kids, if you just come to school at Spring Lake Park High School, you're missing out, because our department and the school has so much more to offer. If you just come from 8:10 to 2:55, man, you don't know what you're missing. So, and that's kind of, and we got to do a better job of engaging kids, and that's a focus next year. Going, okay, if we come back, how do we get these kids back engaged in those clubs? So that's one of my focuses for next year, to say we got to get back to that 80%. We have 16 kids going on to play at the next level. We found ways to bring them in with just their family. We had a signing day, a socially distanced signing day, and we have these coaches talk about these kids, and they all just say what great people they are. Oh, and then they talk about their academics. So, success starts with character. And these people are examples of that, our student athletes. And it's fun to watch them. Coach Stewart was presented with a Green Bay Packers jersey from Zach Johnson, who's on the practice squad for Green Bay. And he came back and won an honor coach. So he gave him a game-worn kind of, and coach was just shocked and said, this is why you do it. So our coaches, our adults, they have had success. Coach does. He's been here for over 30 years. He has 400 wins, and that was great for him to be a part of that. Wasn't going to try to honor him next year with more of his alumni, because we just couldn't have many people there. Coach Stewart does a great job with our football program. Coach Kugler's been the coach there 6 straight years in boys swimming. I mean, that's kind of unheard of, but he said, yeah, I won it again. And I go, oh my gosh. Coach Stevenson, he won an award as a top assistant football coach, and then Coach Gagnon did a great job with our boys hockey team. Coach Gagnon's our head boys hockey coach, our co-head coach. So he did a great job finding ways, once again, to engage kids and connect with kids. As hard as it was, these people connect with kids. And it was tough, whether it was a mask or whether it was the fall or the winter, they found a way. One of my highlights was opening our baseball field. It's kind of our last major project in athletics. It's just beautiful. It's first class. Credit to our coach, Tom Deargard, who's put countless hours into it. He wanted a couple of us in this room to throw out the first pitch. I thought he should probably throw it out, but that's not the kind of person he is. So it was a great day. We beat Fridley that day, so it was fun. And he thought that would be a good opponent, since we've had a long relationship with our friends from Fridley on there. Finally, I think I'll just end with, and I'll take some questions from yours. This kind of got lost. And when you're transitioning, building leaders is what we're about, and trying to make better people. And I'm going to refocus on this next year, because I feel for those kids that I missed this year. So how do you re-engage these people? Well, you need leaders to do that, whether they're captains. And I've even said to kids that it's a big deal to be a captain, but I also tell seniors that you're a leader regardless of whether you're captain or not, or by the position you play, you might be a leader, and try to engage kids. And I don't just pull in the athletic side, I pull in leaders from our tech crew, and leaders from our theater, and leaders from our choir, because I want them to kind of spread the message. What are those messages that people are watching you? Little kids look up to you, that you got to do your best. best is our standard. And people say, well, what does best mean? You have to win everything? No, best means you do your best. You know, whether it's in the classroom, the community, or on the field. That's what we expect. You know, that's, if you give your all, that's all we can ask. So, and you know, I just think better people make better Panthers. So, and that's what we're striving for. So one of the questions I always ask our seniors is, did you learn anything from your program that you can take into your life? Because that's really what it's about. And I believe we're co-curricular. I've told you that. We're not extracurricular. We're part of what we do. We're co-curricular. And so it's nice to hear when kids say, yeah, I learned that we got to be positive, especially in a year like this. I learned accountability. I learned responsibility, putting others. That's what they're learning from our department. So, and those are things that they can carry on their whole lives, whether they're, you know, moms and dads, career people, whatever. So that's our program. It's been a long year, but it's been rewarding. So.
I'm going to start, and then I'll get questions and comments, but given the age of my kids, I know a lot of people who have kids who are seniors and juniors and in high school anyway, and I think I heard that from, gosh, I don't know, everybody I talked to, how grateful they were, to echo what you were saying earlier, just to have the opportunity to play. I mean, for their kids to be able to go to school and participate in something that had really meant so much to them for so many years, as so many kids are in these sports these days and activities as well. So I just really appreciate all of your work, because I know it's been really important to so many kids. So thank you. Other questions and comments? John? Oh, sorry.
Well, I have been out of high school for a few years, and I come for all these good things and think I should recycle them.
We'll take them. No, yeah, I mean, it's really important. I mean, I have 2 kids in our system, and it's really important to them, you know, that connection. I remember when we're going back hybrid. You guys want to go back? Yep, we do. We want to go see adults, and I want to go learn from the teacher, and I want to be a part of my team and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important. So, yeah.
I don't have a question. I was just gonna say, it's a joy to hear you present. This year exuberance and enthusiasm for what you do. I think it's exemplifying exactly what we want our staff and our district to do. So thank you.
There's a sign behind my desk. Enthusiasm is contagious, and it's free too. So.
I also just want to give appreciation to, I know how wonderful it was for the kids to be on their stage, on their field, but all the effort that went into live streaming those events too. So grandmas and grandpas, and for those that were having the last opportunity to watch those performances and those games as well. So that was wonderful. I know I got to watch a lot of girls volleyball and basketball, and
Well, that was tough to tell. You know, the first volleyball game I went to was at Coon Rapids, and they didn't know fans in there. But so we had to find a way to do it. We just had to. And
Yeah.
you know, my grandma's watching from Idaho. I go, wow, what a great thing. And I've had a lot of people say, are you going to do all that next year? I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have to try. We're going to have to try. You're going to do that? Because my grandma wants to watch me. I go, okay.
It is true. Is the one silver lining is I got to watch my nieces and nephews activities.
Yeah, I mean, you learn, that's something that you learn the virtual time. I mean, efficiency, you had to be efficient. And so now we've taken some things and run with it and say, you know, I always ask the coaches in their what are you going to do? What did COVID teach us? What are you going to do differently? You know, because of that. And it's interesting to hear what they say. And a lot of it is their planning had to be, I mean, coaches would come and, I mean, they're trying to coach their team, and then they would just give me this look, and I said, you're a COVID coach now, because you've got to not only coach your team, you've got to figure out their pod and their bus and this and that, and you know, and I just remember Coach Stewart came in one day and said, he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I go, yeah, you can, because you have to, and he did. So, and I found I got him a COVID coach. So I said, why don't you get a former player who's an outstanding human being. Sam Fritz, he was our senior of the year, and Sam was not playing football at Hamlin. They shut down, and he made sure kids wore masks. He took that off of Coach Stewart, and Coach Stewart said that was a great thing to have. So I started saying, get a COVID coach, just to mask up and things like that. And it's hard to do, you know, and society doesn't make it easy either with that. But we try to do things, and we try to get people into games when we could, and things like that. And a credit to our friends from the Northwest Suburban Conference, we were all in this together. So we had to figure out, what are we doing, and how do we work together? And because that's important. And that's nice to work with a group of people that aren't necessarily in our system, but are in the same job and have those same values. Like, we gotta do this, we gotta figure that out. What are we gonna do? And we got a great conference, a tough conference, but we have a great conference, so that we're glad to be a part of.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just real quick, it's great to hear about the creativity the coaches and others had. We hear about it often on the academic side, but it's great to hear that it also occurs on the athletic and activity side. That just goes to show the importance of trying to get some type of normalcy, some relationship building, some collaboration. I mean, that was really critical for our students. And what you've explained and what you've presented shows completely our out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to making children a priority. So,
Yeah, what's
thank you.
interesting is I've had some conversations, and they're kind of going, what is it gonna be like to not have these pod things, you know? 9th grade football was in pod, and, everybody was, JV's a pod, and we don't wanna intermix. Well, that's not necessarily always good either, saying, how do you get your senior leaders to show them, how do we act? This is the standard that we have. So a lot of coaches are creatively thinking, how do we do that? Or we might have missed out, I gotta make sure that I get my sophomore class, to feel a part of our program. And that's a challenge. So there are some new challenges that we're gonna have to face, and you gotta find the best people, and like I've said multiple times tonight, you just do it. You gotta just try, and if you fail, you try something different. And again, that's kind of our motto here anyway. We're gonna push the envelope and make it great for kids, and because what you want them to walk away with, and you want their parents to walk away with, is, yeah, they had a good experience. That's it, really, right? Did we give you a good? That's the first question I asked the seniors. Did you have a good experience? And then I asked them, what do we got to do better? Because we can always do better, and we're just, and that was kind of my thing. People would get sometimes upset and say, we're doing the best we can. Yep. As soon as you'd say that, they go, yep, we got it. We're okay with that. So, and like Amy said, just the gratitude. I mean, I remember the first, we're walking out, and you have to leave the stadium in a different way you came in, because the next crew and these Champlin Park families were just, thanks so much. And I'm like, I didn't do it. Your coaches did that. They kept the kids safe, and we got to play a game. And that was great. And referees stepped up. I mean, people we don't even know that they sacrifice, maybe some of their health to say, we got to ref these kids, and things like that. So there's a lot of appreciation in that way too.
Yeah.
Now we're normal, so they're yelling at us now, but no, I'm just kidding. But we're kind of back to normal, so. But I guess I'll close with credit to you. I mean, I really believe we find a way to do things, and other people don't. And that's credit to our school district. That's what I'm most proud of. We find a way not to say no, and to say yes.
We're happy to hear you feel supported. That's great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Yeah.
Always a highlight to get all that stuff. I love it.
All right, moving on to effective operations, improve our effective management of human, financial, and physical resources. We'll start with our monthly financial report for April 2021. Ms. Amy Schultz.
Good evening. You'll probably be seeing me on a few of these tonight, so I will try to do these fairly quickly. We are coming down to our last few monthly financial reports of the year. So this one that we are doing tonight is for our month of April. So just get started. All right, so with April, this is our usual monthly report. So it's cash basis, beginning and ending receipts for the month, or beginning and ending balance for the month, receipts and disbursements. Receipts a little bit higher than some of our past few months. Big month on state aids in April, about 7.1 million. Other than that, the rest of the money came in through operations, reimbursement for meals, programs through community ed, and interest. Along with that, then on the disbursement side, it was a little bit of a lower month than what we typically see. There were no debt or lease payments. Most months have a debt or a lease payment for something that we had going on, either ourselves, 9/16. And in April, we do not have any of those. So expenses tend to be a little bit lower. So we finished the month at just over 52 million. Statement of revenues. These are our revenues for the month of April and a year to date, and how that compares to the budget for the year, and then how that compares to the previous 2 years. With this, the budget was revised in April by the school board and approved. So with that, the budget that is reflected now currently reflects our current budget. So the percentages have been tweaked a little bit then as we changed that budget to be a little more accurate to where we stand this current school year. Last year, the revisions were done in June, so months, when you compare year to year, it's still a little bit different, but right now we're sitting with the revision in April. We really are right where we would expect to be for our general fund and right where we were the previous 2 years. On food service and community ed, we are still a little bit behind, and we're going to expect that for a while. One of the items within those two budgets for revenue is a permanent fund transfer that we will need to be doing after the school year closes, once we see kind of the effects of COVID on those two funds. And that is already budgeted in the general fund, that we'll be needing to do something like that, similar to what we did last year as well. But because that won't happen until after year end, they're going to continue to look lower as a percentage through the rest of this year. As far as trust and agency, that one, we don't usually spend a lot of time on that because it's such a small dollar amount compared to the others, but a deposit was just made a month earlier this year, which is why the percentage is twice as high, but it's really just about the timing of a week can make that difference. On the statement of expenditures, these really are comparable in total to what we would expect them to be. We are a little bit lower in areas this current school year, such as purchase services, where we haven't spent a lot of money on areas like professional development, consultants. Our transportation costs are lower than where they would have been. Still working on settling the contract and kind of cleaning up some things from this year with the transportation companies. So we're about a month behind on some of those billings as well as we work with them. And again, the other expenses on here is the one that looks really low compared to the previous 2 years. That's where that budget transfer, or the funds transfer will come out of the general fund. So that is why the budget is so much higher compared to the expenses we've seen year to date. And then again, we'll offset after year end. So that is it for the monthly financial report.
Anybody have any questions on that? Thank you. All right, moving on to budget planning, fiscal year 2022 proposed budget, and we will be voting on this later tonight, so it's a good chance to ask any questions if people have them. I don't see this one loaded, so. All right, so some of that. So budget presentation, this is kind of that culmination of a lot of meetings that the board's been a part of over the past, really 13 months or so. It's one of those things we presented at one time for the board to approve, but it's something that the board is pretty heavily involved in for well over a year before we get to this point. So we'll walk through that calendar a little bit. But with that, this is the budget for next school year, so that starts effective July 1st in a few weeks. And with that, the biggest piece of our budget is aligning that with our strategic plan. So with that, you can see that on here. And that's something that the board's been heavily involved with as we work through that plan. The purpose of the budget then is aligning those resources to meet that strategic plan. And so with that, we really do try to align our budget and staffing processes to best meet those needs of our kids and improve their learning. So that budget timeline, with this, it is like we said, we have spring of 2020 is the time that we really start reviewing the long-term projections, which starts to bring next year into kind of a little more clear picture. So with that, the school board administration review those long-term forecasts, and then starting really about now through December is the property tax levy system. So we've started to enter things already.
That gets done now through August, and then in September, you'll see the preliminary property tax levy to be certified. So with that, then, you'll see some of these components will come back through that process. After that, then in December is when the final approval of property taxes come to the school board. And once those are approved, those set taxes that are collected through the next year. It seems a little odd, it's always a 3-year process when you think about it. The board will approve the property taxes in December of 2021, they're collected in 2022. And those revenues then will be for fiscal '23. So the ones that we're talking about right now, were actually taxes payable in 20, revenue for 20, collected 21, revenue 21, 22. June through May, so this really is encompassing the whole last school year, where the school board administration has discussed budget assumptions and parameters while reviewing the effect on the long-term projections, and we'll see that guiding change, which really helps drive that in just a minute. In May, just 2 weeks ago, the school board reviewed the proposed 2021-22 budget, and tonight it is being recommended for approval later in the meeting. So this is the guiding change. Again, the board has seen this several times over the last, 6 months, 7 months. With that, nothing has changed from what's been presented to the board in the past, and as we get to some of the next slides, we'll walk through sort of what the highlights are of what the context and reality of those assumptions and what the desired results are. So those influences and assumptions that we've used, these were worked in partnership with administration and the school board. And with that, those assumptions then drive what is used to develop the budget. Right now, it's been sort of a strange year. Usually we aren't clear at all where the legislation stands, or they've finished. This year, they've not quite finished, but given sort of a bottom line to what school districts might receive. So what we're expecting is to come in somewhere near that in total, even if with one line might come in a little higher, another a little lower. But within that, we're feeling okay with the assumptions that we've used. And again, the school board agreed with those about a month or 2 ago at the retreat. Now the revenue influences assumptions. So these are the more specifically those assumptions that we had walked through. Enrollment increase to 6,120. So it's an increase of 100 students. And when we say students, again, we talk about average daily membership when it comes to the budget. The number of kids that we will have coming through our doors will be over 6,200. But when we have students who might start the year with us and move out of the state, they don't count as a full student when it comes to revenue. We would get the portion of the time that they're here. So from a budget standpoint, we'll be talking average daily membership. So 1.5% on the general education formula. This is one of those assumptions we're making from the legislature. That's an increase of $99. Compensatory aid decrease, and this is that piece we've been talking about all year, knowing that that was going to go down based on the reduced number of reduced applications that we had. So with that, though, we have distributed that to the sites for their staffing plans based on state formulas, and we've utilized the flexibility that the state has given us to make sure that we're addressing needs at each one of our sites. QComp, ADSYS, Achievement and Integration, other similar programs are being continued. Federal title grants, for those that we are aware of, the dollar amounts, those are in there as known. Others are those that we are projecting to be based on the same as the current year levels. COVID federal grants are included to the extent of planned expenditures. And so with that, what we've done is we know that the total amount of federal grants that we are getting will be higher than what is currently as a revenue in the budget, but we've matched it to the expenses that we have already planned for. And there's a slide coming up that will talk more about that, but we didn't want to make the revenue really high because it really will tie back at the end of the year as well to the expenses that we had. The rest of the money will carry forward to future years. And then with that, other grants and miscellaneous income at our current year levels. Inflation on the expense side, only on areas of purchase, some areas of purchase services and allocations that are tied to student enrollment. So those are areas like supplies. We give sites a supply budget based on the number of students that they have. So that one goes up as our enrollment goes up. Utilities is an example of a purchase service where utility costs tend to increase just a little bit each year. So that's another area that we have inflationary increased through those assumptions. Staff costs are based again on the continued board and administration approach we've used in previous years. Transportation is based on increased contract terms and enrollment growth. Some of those are known, some of those are still being negotiated. And the maintenance plan financed through long-term facilities maintenance revenue funds. In previous years, we would have also been taking general fund dollars to help fund some of those. This is one of the first years, I think in several years, we have not done that. So right now, we are being able to finance those facility needs through the long-term facilities maintenance funds. And maintaining class size targets K-12. So the desired results as we build this budget, a structurally balanced budget. And so with that, our ongoing revenues, we want to be at least as high as our ongoing expenses. And that's something that both administration and school board has valued. And it is a strong indicator of why we're at where we are financially. So again, the resources will be aligned with the strategic and district operational plans focused on improving student learning. That we will strategically utilize those resources to make sure that we are investing in change and improvement and innovation. And again, these were developed following the review of all of our current systems. So we look at each of our budgets and make sure that they're still aligning. So here's our federal COVID relief grant. Again, the board's seen, this is really just what the board has seen on chart paper in the past. I've already kind of talked a little bit to that first part. So the planned expenditures in the current year budget are to subsidize that decrease in compensatory revenue and make sure we can continue the programming that was supporting in the past, as well as teaching staff, that we have increased the staffing at several of our sites to meet student learning needs. Other expenditures we're still considering, but are not currently in the budget. So professional learning, technology, air handling units, and then incubating and supporting innovation and meeting student needs. It's nice to have these funds set aside, and those things can come up during the school year. So when people come up with ideas, we have these funds available to help meet those needs. A significant portion of our revenue is levy resources. So as we talked about the property tax calendar and system being a part of this, with that, going back in November of 2019, district voters approved renewals of our operating capital projects levies. Those are both set to expire after the 2019-20 school year. They are for 10 years, so currently set to expire after the 2029-30 school year. Our general fund, or general operating levy has not increased as far as a per pupil dollar amount since 2002. So right now, we are currently one of the lowest of the metro districts when you combine those voter-approved levies along with the capital projects revenue on a per student basis. Our operating levy generates $1.3 million, and that's used for just general school district operations. So anything from buses to teachers to paraprofessionals and utilities. Capital projects levy generates $1.4 million annually. That's the only part of our levy that's actually not based on students at all, but based on our property values. And so with that, it pays for technology, both in the classrooms, outside of the classrooms, the school board rooms, areas like that, school operations, and our district's safety and security systems. So then also that part of it being the long-term facilities maintenance revenue. These funds are restricted specifically to meet health and safety needs, and as well as making sure that we are maintaining our facilities. So areas like making sure we're doing fire inspections annually, those are required. Replacing carpet, painting buildings, replacing rooftops. You'll see a project coming up for bid later that is included in the budget as part of long-term facilities to do chiller replacements at Westwood, and repaving parking lots. So all those types of expenses are a part of that. The budget does include both the Spring Lake Park Schools portion of that as well as Intermediate District 916, their portion. So coming up later tonight, there are 2 actions that we're required to submit a 10-year plan to the Department of Education. We submit our own, 916 submits theirs. So what you will see later on reflects our 10-year plan. 916 reflects theirs. What we levy is the district's proportionate share of that. And maybe I can just say that quickly now and we'll come back up later. So with that, it's about, I think, $8,700 that we levy for 916. That's our proportionate share of the $142,000 that they are levying. It reflects 0.03% of our levy. So it's a very insignificant portion of our overall levy. It's not a big hit to any of our taxpayers. So with that, we simply do this because 916 does not have a district boundary. It's kind of a co-op membership driven. So each district levies their proportionate share. Student enrollment, this is a graph that for years and years we just saw increasing. So this current school year, 2021, is the first time we've seen it go down. On a webinar earlier, many districts were talking about the dip they took in enrollment this year. And many of them were talking about much larger numbers than the 40 that we have seen. So when we look at this number and the dip, it's significantly lower than what many other districts experienced. And we are hoping then to rebound back up to that 6,120, and you can see that reflected here by each of the grade levels. So as we get to our budget, the numbers will be coming up in just a couple slides, but quickly in a graph format. You can see again, state aids are the primary driver of our revenue. The general education per pupil funding is the largest part of that. This is the amount where we have talked in the past about when that specific general education amount goes up. If it goes up 1.5%, as we are predicting, that's not 1.5% of our revenue. It's actually 1.5% of a portion of this state aids. So overall, it's about 60% of our revenue that gets increased by that. But all of our state aids combined, so that would include special ed, portions of achievement and integration, our QComp program is 76%. Federal programs is 5%. This is higher than what it's been in the previous years due to the COVID grants. Usually it's closer to about 1.7 million, so it's about doubled. Interest at 100,000, this is lower than we predicted in past years. Rates are quite low, no matter how we try to invest them. So, and going out longer term doesn't really increase the yield. Other, so these are different areas. Some of this, in these cases for next year, I'm trying to think of a larger one all of a sudden. Some of these are kind of tweaky accounting things. They're the TRA liabilities that we show in our financial statements. Gate receipts, participation, all of those. Third-party medical reimbursement. So again, taxes being 18%. Really the big change, and the only one that changed significantly was the federal. So on the expense side, you can see we have done compensation and purchase compensation. The compensation and purchase combined is the amount that we see as kind of being compensation for the district. We do not hire our own bus drivers. So with that, we've sort of taken an assumption as to if we were to hire all of our own bus drivers, what that amount would be in total compensation. It helps us kind of compare to other districts. Some districts who have their own bus drivers, their compensation number looks higher. So we've tried to look at those a little bit differently, knowing that it's a purchase service, but a lot of that is compensation. So we've taken a part of those bus contracts and turned it into staffing in this graph. Purchase service, then again, that's a lot of utilities, things like that. Bus contracts, any consultants we use, supplies and materials, none of the rest of these have changed as much, with the exception of capital equipment. This is that area where in the past we were paying out of the general fund for larger facilities projects. And right now, nothing is currently being budgeted for next year. So with that, this amount came down, which makes the other ones go up just slightly. We will likely be making adjustments as the Velodrome Road project has not started yet. So we will bring those things back for budget adjustments in the fall, hopefully, as well as anytime we are adjusting these COVID plans and looking at adding expenses for that. So we will be bringing revisions back here and there as more of those become clear. So the last slide are the total dollars. So this is what's being asked for the school board to approve tonight, is just this top 6 lines where it's each fund and the total. So with that, it's general, food, community, debt, and OPEB debt service funds. You can see total is just over 93 million in revenue and 92 million in expenses. The asterisk there breaks out the general fund into what we've worked with the board in the past on general operations versus our capital and long-term facilities. So those being more of our larger capital items. So with that, that is the budget presentation. If there are any questions.
Questions? As you mentioned, we'll be voting on this soon, so if you have questions, it's a good time. Yeah.
So on the COVID federal funds, just so I'm understanding this correctly, the revenue, that revenue is only included to the extent of already identified expenditures. There's some amount that we're
we'll either bring it as a budget revision sometime throughout the next fiscal year, or if it's money that we will be carrying forward, some of the funds can be spent through the summer of '22, some can be spent through the summer of '23, and some through the summer of '24. So we have the ability to not record it all this year, and accounting requires that we match the revenue to the expenses in the year they incurred, so that's why we're matching it out that way.
So you're accounted for either through budget revisions or future year budget?
Future budgets.
Amy, I have a quick question. I'm sitting here thinking, I probably know the answer to this, but for the life of me, I'm just gonna ask you, I hope it's not a dumb question. Taxes were about 13 million in the,
Yep.
right? The voter-approved levies are
1.3. Oh,
Between
sorry,
the two of them.
2.7.
You're right, between the two of them, 2.7, sorry, between the capital and
Okay, so 13 million versus 2 point, what, I don't know why there's a difference between those.
So with the general fund, so some of the referendum money was moved to like a local option revenue.
Right.
So we levy for many things. Some are voter approved, some are not. Some are statute driven, and so we specifically follow the formulas that are allowed for us to do that. Long-term facilities is a levy. Operating capital is a levy. Both of those we do also get some aid in.
Are
But
bonds part of that too?
There's leases, there's all sorts of things that fall under that. When we do the levy presentation in December, we walk through every one of those categories. So those all go into making these up. In addition to, there are levies for community service. The entire debt and OPEB are basically levy as well.
Are the bonds part of that as well?
Yes, so the debt and the OPEB debt service are principal and interest on bonds. So
Okay.
we levy for the revenue to make those payments.
Okay.
So it's pretty much.
I knew there was more to it than just that, but I just wanted to just touch on it because, you know, in case you. All right, thank you. John?
Since it was mentioned, I had some.
We are in the middle of trying to get title right now, and so the last few documents we're trying to wrap up so that we can set a closing date. The closing date has not come here yet. So we were hoping for mid-June, knowing it could be later June. It looks like it might be closer to, hopefully in a few weeks still. It's the project that won't start.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate that.
I would reiterate that the board had time to talk about this at the work session from last meeting prior, so while there were a couple of questions here, there were a lot of questions.
Yes, yes, to echo what you said when you started, that we've had the opportunity to see this many times, so yeah, no, we appreciate that and have asked many questions along the way. Yes.
In case it was like, really, that's a big amount.
Right. Right, yeah. Excellent. All right, moving on to superintendent's report.
So you just had two presentations, so I'm just going to be very brief. And this is the last, hopefully the last COVID board. Where we're sitting like this and having to do this. It's been a journey the past 18 months, and I just want to have a huge thank you to our staff, to our teachers, paraprofessionals, our food service staff, my team that's sitting over there, just to all of them, to our staff and students for making the best of the past 18 months. It's been full of challenges. They turned those challenges into opportunities. I think till last summer where we talked about, you know, we had 50 to 70, whatever it was, teachers that came in for a few days in June, and we said, well, it can be this one of two ways. Is the problem to solve, or what do we want to create? And it was amazing the creativity that they came up with. I also want to thank our families for their support. It's been very trying for our families at times. You know, when Will talks about that day where the athletics and activities just got shut down, we had to move to distance learning. You know, there was so much of that that we were responding to. Every time we think, hey, it's getting back to normal, then all of a sudden, whoa, there'd be a new rule that we had to implement. And I know that was trying for our families, but they supported their kids, they supported our staff, and I'm very appreciative of that. And finally, thank you to you as a school board for the guidance that you provided when we needed that over the past 18 months. Just for the support and always knowing that you were there and behind our staff and people as they did that work. So we got through the 2021 school year, and I think we'll be better for it moving forward.
action items. We will start with approval of the 2021-2022 proposed budget. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Easter?
Second.
Second by Bo. To approve the proposed 2021-2022 budget. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on to approval of the fiscal year 23 application for long-term facilities maintenance revenue, to be submitted to the Minnesota Department of Education. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Strobel? Second by Forsberg. So this is for the, as Amy was just describing, this one is the one that's specific to our district for the long-term facilities maintenance revenue. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. All right, now moving on to the resolution approving 916's long-term facility maintenance budget and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of those projects in the district's application for long-term facility maintenance revenue. Could I get a motion, please? Motion by Forsberg,
Second.
second by Easter. To adopt the following resolution, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 16, State of Minnesota as follows. Number 1, the School Board of Northeast Metropolitan Intermediate School District number 916 has approved a long-term facility maintenance budget for its facilities for the 2022-2023 school year in the amount of $142,000. The various components of this program budget are shown in Exhibit A, incorporated herein. Minnesota Statute Section 123B.53 Subdivision 1 provides that if the intermediate school district budget is approved by the school boards of each of the intermediate members, each member district may include its proportionate share of the cost in 916's long-term facility maintenance revenue application. The proportionate share of the costs of 916's long-term facility maintenance program for each member school district included in the application shall be determined by utilizing a blended rate, which I won't read, but is all there if you're interested in it. Explains how that's done. And the inclusion of this proportionate share of the district's long-term facility maintenance revenue application for fiscal year 2022 is hereby approved, subject to approval by the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Education. Upon receipt of the proportionate share of the long-term facility maintenance revenue attributable to the intermediate school district program, the district shall promptly pay to the intermediate school district the applicable aid or levy proceeds. Any discussion?
Well, I sing this song every year. Intermediate school districts, of which there are 4 in the state of Minnesota, are quite interesting in that they have no levy authority. All of their money comes through the member districts in the form of this resolution, membership fees that we pay, and tuition that we get on the districts pay for tuition. So this is the mechanism of that. But interesting that they have no levy power, and they are completely dependent on the other things. And mostly sell their products to their students.
And they, provide a lot of very important services for our students and for many others who need them, so. Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. Anybody else?
The 10-year plan for 916, that's just a plan that doesn't bind us. 10 years, correct?
Right.
Question? Anybody else? All right. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Strobel.
Yes.
Mr. Crew?
Yes.
Ms. Wheaton? Yes. Ms. Bo?
Yes.
Ms. Forsberg?
Yes.
Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of construction bids. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Wheaton,
Second.
second by Bo. To award the base bid and reject alternate number 1 for the chiller replacement project at Westwood Intermediate and Middle School. A little information on that one. I know we received some, but summary. Thank you, Ms. Schultz.
I can give you a really quick update. Sitting right behind the monitor. There were 4 bids that were received for a chiller replacement project at Westwood. There are 5 chillers at Westwood, these 2, another large one, and 2 smaller ones. So this is taking care of 2 of the larger ones. Another one will actually be coming up in the next year or 2. The 2 smaller ones are pretty new. We've got several years on those. So these were bid out, 4 bids were received. The base bids and then the alternate, so just so the board's aware, the alternate is being rejected. Because what that was, is if we could have salvaged one of the existing chillers and saved enough money to make that worthwhile, we would have done that. So it gave us the option to do that. The quotes that came in for that were not saving us enough money to make that worthwhile. So it's rejecting that. We would have had to replace it soon enough that it wasn't worth the savings. So with that, it's rejecting the alternate bid and accepting the low base bid from Clam Mechanical.
Questions anybody might have on that? All right. All those in favor, please say, oh, it isn't, I'm assuming this is just a straight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Resolution relating to termination and non-renewal of probationary teaching contracts. Is there a motion? Motion by Forsberg. Second by Wheaton. To approve the following resolution, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 16 that pursuant to Minnesota Statute 122A40, the teaching contracts of the following probationary teachers in the Independent School District 16 are hereby terminated at the close of the 2020-2021 school year. And be it further resolved that written notice shall be sent to the following teachers regarding termination of pay and fringe benefits as provided by law. Any discussion? Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Strobel?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Wheaton? Yes. Ms. Bowe?
Yes.
Ms. Forsberg?
Yes.
Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on to number 6, approval of the 2021-2022 annual Q Comp MOU. Is there a motion? Motion by Wheaton. Second by Easter. To approve the Q Comp memorandum of understanding. Before we have discussion, I'm guessing we have some information on this one. Thank you, Mr. Stromberg.
I'm up here if you can't see me.
So I don't know if you can see me.
Madam Chair, Dr. Romberg, members of the board, good evening. This is that time of year. I think the QComp annual report is due. It's also part of our World's Best Workforce update, just one part of it, which Dr. Ron, of course, leads most of that opportunity for that report. But as QComp, the MOU you're about to approve it's what our teachers have to actually work with myself on an annually basis to make sure that we continue to have QComp here in the school district. It's different than the teacher master agreement or the teacher employment agreement, which we renew every 2 years. Again, just to kind of give you an overarching what is QComp. Technically, it's called quality compensation. Again, in this district, I think we went and got approved for QComp back in 2009, so it's been with us for a while. And it really is to provide us an opportunity or a structure to really bring in additional resources to award to our teachers, but also make sure that we're doing really best practice, like creating coaching opportunities, creating feedback opportunities, having learning and equity teams, things like that we've been doing even before we were a QComp approved district. Again, this is also, like I said, part of the World's Best Workforce report. QComp is only one aspect of the continuous improvement efforts and the professional learning practices that you guys hear so much about, that also Dr. Ron speaks to way more than I do, of course. So the part of the QComp component, so what we had to do years ago in this district, just like the districts that do have QComp, we had to fill out an application. We have to at least renew or update the state on a frequent basis, most often annually. That's been in the past on, are we saying what we submitted our application now almost 11 years ago.
or over 11 years ago. So we have to have things such as teacher leader positions, continuous improvement, our innovation coaches, our curriculum leads, the educational advisory, services advisory, of course, which with COVID right now has been on pause, and then our learning and equity teams, job embedded professional development, which you hear so often, teacher evaluation, which we don't like to refer to in this school district. It's more about, that continuous feedback that we like to give our educators. And then, of course, performance pay comes along with that. We have different award systems. We have the individual, which is the largest pay opportunity, professional learning community, or PLC goal, and then a building goal. Again, these goals are set in partnership with our principals and the teachers, and of course, our PLCs in the building. The other part, just the program evaluations of insights. This is very similar to what you've seen in the past. The coolest thing about this, and I think this is pretty humble, but over 4,000 completed observations. And what I mean by that is that's how many opportunities you see between our coaches and our principals, that they interact with our 400 educators. I just happen to be working on a recent situation with one of our former teachers where we got to report out that in one given year, this teacher had 47 interactions with her principal. So the individual that we were working with actually didn't understand how the principal had 47 interactions, but it just tells you how often our principals do get in classrooms and provide, again, feedback. Feedback, again, when you use the word evaluation, sometimes has a negative connotation to it, but in our organization, we try to, it's more about what can we keep doing to continue to get better. And you can see the weekly professional learning community focused on student data, student work, and response. We only get better at that. We have some amazing systems in our learning and teaching department that help us focus on those things, and a great team that helps us with our principals and our teachers. To continue to support our teacher leaders, right? Dr. Ron herself takes on a lot of the coaching of our kicks this last year, and then we've also just made some structures and some system changes. So our coaches are really focusing on the areas that we need to focus, so we continue to improve. And then just the insight gained through our teacher rounding to determine focused areas to continue for professional learning. And so that really is just part of our QComp. Our QComp MOU was voted on by our teachers. They did ratify it by a 99.5% approval. So at this point in time, we always weren't there, but I think now that they're realizing that there is a value. It's not necessarily because of what the state designed 10, 12, 15 years ago, but more about what we've adopted in Spring Lake Park. That, so again, some next actually things that that was going the wrong way, sorry. That's it. That is really part of the QComp process. Application, again, you submit it once, you just have to make sure that you maintain it and you don't make any dramatic changes, which we have not. If we do make changes, Dr. Ron and her team work with the state to making sure that we update it and we stay in compliance with the statute, what QComp falls underneath. So, any questions?
I'm sure I've asked this once or twice before, every June. But QComp is a voluntary program for the district, right?
Yes, we had to go actually apply and receive the resources that come along with it, and continue that, make sure their application stays in line with what we applied to for.
Being a QComp approved district brings additional resources. Can you expand upon the additional resources our district gets by being a QComp approved district?
Yeah, primarily money. Yeah. I would probably have to sit down with Ms. Schultz on that one total, but again, it all depends on what the funds, where you said the funds come from. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a
Good question. Michael, I'll know that next year, by the way, so I'll have that ready.
I'll probably forget the rest.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Thank you. We're basically approving it annually as we do each year, so. All right.
Thanks, Fred.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, designation of school board meetings for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Easter. Second by Forsberg. To designate the second Tuesday of the month for the regular school board meetings, 7 o'clock, with communication to the board and administration starting at 6:45, and the fourth Tuesday of the month for school board work sessions at 6 p.m. for the 2021-2022 school year, unless otherwise noted, at the District Services Center. List is here, a couple of quick edits on here, just small little changes. The August 22nd date should say 24th. 24th is a Tuesday. The second May date should also say May 24th. And June, the first one is June 7th. It'll be a long month of June. With 90 degrees outside, it's June 87. Okay, any other discussion on that? We've kind of talked about this calendar a little bit, and it just kind of confirms what we talked about previously with that August meeting, that we're going to leave on a Tuesday now, and if we have to move it, we will. And then changing that October 1 to be in the regular week we usually have it.
Are the retreats on Fridays?
They are, I don't think they're all Fridays, actually.
One of them's a Thursday.
Yeah, one of them's a Thursday.
December 2nd, I think is one of them. Thursday.
Yeah, it's December 2nd, it's December 3rd is not.
Okay. Figured there was a reason. Yeah, and then April 10th, or 29th is a Friday. Without question. Any other questions or discussion on the calendar? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. And moving on to acknowledgement of gifts. Is there a motion? Motion by Wheaton. Second by Strobel, thank you. To adopt the following resolution, whereas the School Board Policy 706 establishes guidelines for the acceptance of gifts to the district, and whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 states that the school board may accept a gift of real or personal property by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members, therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Spring Lake Park Schools accepts with appreciation the gifts given to the district that are currently up on the screen. As always, it's just nice to take a moment to acknowledge the wonderful community support that we get, not only these, but the acknowledgement of the large contribution also from the Panther Foundation earlier tonight, so thank you to our community. Anybody else have any other discussion on that? Okay, Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Strobel?
Yes.
Mr. Crown?
Yes.
Ms. Wheaton? Yes. Ms. Bell?
Yes?
Ms. Forsberg? Yes. Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Ms. Henry?
Yes. Thank you. And time for board forums. Anybody have anything to share? Looking at you, Marilyn.
Not a huge amount. It was Superintendent Hayes' last meeting at 9:16. It's kind of a strange thing because it was a Zoom meeting, so a strange way to say goodbye. And otherwise, it was largely routine business of changing names on contracts and a variety of things. Valerie Rowe, you want to be as superintendent?
What's the name again?
Val Ray Bowe, but she's not spelled right.
No relation.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? I was just gonna make sure everybody saw this on their table, because this gives all the details about where and when to be on Friday nights, since it's our first time in a new location.
When you went to board there, is there a time specific orders?
Yeah, I mean, I guess ideally I'd think like 6:30, just in case there's any issues. I don't know, but it's up to you guys.
Typically, it's half hour early, but well, between Karen and I, we'll confirm with Michelle. Back to you.
Does this event require a mask?
No.
No? Okay. Great question. It looks like there's a reserve lot we can park in and information here. So anyway, just want to make sure we all saw that, because I know we've been waiting for that information. Anything else to share tonight?
I was just gonna say, Thank you, that's indoors.
Right, yeah.
Doesn't
Oh
look
my
like it.
God.
We definitely would have had to do that.
Sarah would have been cozy though, but this is weather, right?
Right.
I have a sweater on because I'm cold. I would have been great. 90,
Yeah.
perfect.
Jeff and his robe.
My
would
favorite
just love
temperature.
it.
Oh, yeah. Chance of rain.
True. All right.
Do we go, are we supposed to go at which entrance here, student or guest? Which entrance are we supposed to go at?
Great question. What says upon
We'll
entrance?
follow up with Matthew and get that, all that information to you, so it's really, here's with Michelle and Matthew at the high school, get that to you by Friday at 6:30. Get that to you tomorrow or Thursday, so you have it before Friday, so, yeah.
I think.
I'll just pound on every door until.
Whichever one is near parking lot 37, maybe. All right, anybody else? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Forsberg, second by Easter. Sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:26. Thanks, everybody.